Shop at KendoStar.com if you like these videos and you want me to make more. There, try and skip that one. KendoStar is my website, of course, sells brilliant equipment. And that's what pays for the channel. So don't skip this bit. Go and shop at KendoStar after you finish watching this. Hi folks, it's Andy. Welcome to this week's Kendo Rant. I hope you're having a fantastic day. We've got some great questions. I've said the important stuff. Let's get right into them. First one, considering the fact that I have never attended a Shiai, I'm interested to know if there's a rule for the red and white ribbon sides. I mean, on what side the kendo car with the right and red and white ribbons stand? Yes, there is a rule. Basically, you've got three Shimpan. You've got the Shushin, who's the main Shimpan that sort of administrates the Shiai, and then you've got the two Fukushin. The Shushin, he stands at the tip of the triangle, the top of the triangle that they make as they move around the Shiaijo, and the competitors, the red player, starts on his right as he or she is looking at them as they do Sonkyo. Okay, so the red player starts on the Shushin's right. Okay, and that's it. Next one, Jersey Kote. You mentioned that you were looking into developing a pair. Is there any progress on this? Also, is the Kamui the successor of the Kaisei armor? I noticed that they are spec'd quite closely and both use a gridded machine stitch design. Sometimes it's hard to identify the product hierarchy. Thanks. So the Jersey Kote, what you mean by that is like the synthetic Kote that are like washable, you know, made from the same sort of material, the polyester type material that the synthetic Kendogis are made from. It is something we've had in development, and it's been in development for quite a while now. I do appreciate that. It hasn't got much progress on it. Mainly because 2020 wasn't quite the year we was expecting it to be. So a lot of our projects sort of have been put on hold a little bit. But they'll be coming back. All right, so we will be moving that project forward very soon. Okay, so watch this space for that. In terms of the Kamui is fantastic board set, but it is not the successor of the Kaisei. The Kaisei, they both do have a grid pattern type stitching, but the Kamui is slightly different to the Kaisei. The Kaisei is like our top of the range Borger in terms of the actual KendoStar brand. It's basically like a hand-stitched Borger. It's got all the bells and whistles that you get with a hand-stitched Borger, but it's machine-stitched, so it's not quite as expensive. If you were to get the same spec in machine-stitched, you'd be really rocketing the cost up. It's a great Borg set. The Kamui is made from a lot of synthetic materials as opposed to the genuine deerskin that's used on the Kaisei set, so it's not on the same level. And it's not really spec'd out the same either. If anything, it's the successor of the previous Shinobu Wraith set. So yeah, that's sort of where it sits. In terms of our sort of product hierarchy, just to quickly run you through it, we start off right at the bottom with the Vanguard Basic V2. That's the most economical way to pick up a fantastic KendoStar brand bug set. Takes the sort of concept of the Vanguard series, which is all about protection and durability and comfort, and basically being a brilliant bugger, and it strips away some of the ones that aren't quite as necessary in order to make it obviously a great entry price set. You got the original Vanguard set. That's our flagship set, by far our best selling one. It's the best one for most practitioners if you're just starting out as a first set. It's great as a second set if you want something that's a spare. It's great for all levels. I use it myself. It is a fantastic set. The next one up from that's the Myrmidon. That takes the protection, the concept of the protection even further with the hybrid stitching that it's got. Really awesome. If you want something super protective. Next step up from there, it kind of goes in two directions with the Kamui and the Victory. They sit around the same level, and they're both really fantastic all-purpose, all-round ball sets that are at that sort of higher mid-tier, if you want to call it that. And yeah, I mean, it depends which you like in terms of the aesthetic as to which one you go for. Whether you like that sort of orizashi look with the choice of colors, you go for the Victory, and if you like that sort of synthetic leather sort of matte look that you get from the Kamui. And then you've got the Praetor, which is like a souped up version of the Vanguard original, where we take that sort of design and the concept and we really boost the materials that are on it. Full deer skin reinforcements, all of that. And then you take a full step up to the Kaisei, where you have the same sort of spec that you get on the Praetor, the full deer skin, all the bells and whistles, but then it goes further with the grid type stitching as well, so you've got super duper durability, and that's basically it. And then of course you've got the Kanzetsu, and you go into the hand stitch range, and that's that. Next one, at the last and only until now KendoStar online Keiko, we were talking about Seme, and more exercises. Any more exercises and tips to practice at home? There isn't a lot you can do, to be honest. Now, Seme is where you apply Seme, that's pressure on your opponent, by using your feet. And we were practicing it by doing a type of suburi where we would do a large men strike, and you'd start by moving your right foot first, and then everything else would sort of coming together after that. So right foot go out first, and then men. I think that is probably one of the best types of suburi for practicing that sort of idea. There's not a lot else you can do without actually practicing with an opponent or a partner. So yeah, but it was the first and up to now only KendoStar Online Keiko, but I will be doing some more. In fact, I think I'm going to do one next week, probably on Tuesday, and if you're really good, I might do another one possibly on Saturday. And we did a poll. I did a poll in the Kendo Show Early Access group where I asked what would be the most convenient days for people. Tuesday evenings and Saturday mornings came out on top. So I'll probably do one on Tuesday evening. The thing about Saturday morning, there's a couple of things. One is Saturday morning, where I am in the UK, is the middle of the night for everyone, not everyone, but lots of people in the US and other places around the world. So it means that not as many people can possibly join. But I do know that like sort of early evening on a weekday isn't always super convenient for people in Europe and other places as well. But the main thing is that all my tech and all my setup is here at KendoStar. So that means that if I do one of those online Zoom practices, it has to happen here at KendoStar. And at the minute, I'm not really coming into the office that much at the weekend, without going into too much sort of personal stuff. But the UK's under, quite strict lockdown measures at the minute. Schools are closed, all that sort of thing. And my kids off school. Because of that, they're being homeschooled. School's doing a great job giving them stuff to do. But my wife works here at KendoStar with me. So my kids are currently staying at my mum's house because she lives on her own. She's allowed to do that. So they're actually staying at my mum's house at the minute so she can do the homeschooling with them so they don't miss out on their education. But it does mean that, like, the weekend is the only time I get to spend with my kids at the minute. So yeah, I'm not sure I can really do the keiko on a Saturday so easily. I'll see if I can do one next week, but it's not something I'll be able to do regularly for the time being. With that in mind, I'm sure you understand. So next question. When one does kata in a grading, are the shitachi and the uchitachi always in the same spot in relation to the judging table? So this depends where you are in the world, and obviously different federations and stuff might do some things differently. But for the most part, in general, in Japan, yeah, it's decided, it's almost always the case that from the point of view of the judging table, the uchitachi is on their left and the shitachi is on their right. Okay, that's almost always the way it is in Japan. So yeah. Next one. There's so many things that are challenging in Kendo, but I never realized how challenging judging would be until I got called and needed to do it. I feel embarrassed when I have to rewind professional matches in slow motion to ensure I see who scored the point and why. Real matches are even worse. Judging tips, please. Fantastic question. Really, really, really good question. Look, first off, there's nothing to be embarrassed about rewinding those matches that you watch on video. Like, I have to do that as well. Everyone has to do that. It's, especially as and this is this is part of what the point I'll probably make on this is that, especially when you're watching a video, you're kind of removed from the actual atmosphere of the Shiai, and that's really important as a referee. Now, judging tips, I mean, the fact is you get better at refereeing with experience, right? And it's not just experience of refereeing that is super important, but not just refereeing, but also actually doing Kendo. All right, so you have to do refereeing and you have to practice Kendo. All right, you can't just not practice Kendo ever and then just turn up and try and referee. It doesn't work. And the reason I say that is because when you're refereeing, you're involved in the Shiai. Now, you're not participating per se. Of course you are in a way, but you're not like one of the participants of the match. You're an administrator of the match, but you are still participating in it. Well, not participating. Just contradicting myself. Not participating. I mean, you are involved in it. All right. You're inside the Shiai. Okay. Now, when you're practicing Kendo, through layers of experience, you'll start to gain the ability to, I hesitate to use the word predict because it's not a prediction. It's more like a super educated guess based off the experience you've accumulated as to how your opponent is going to react to your movements or in specific situations. Okay. You'll start to have these experiences where, right, if I move in this way, if I apply Seme like this, or do that, this opponent's likely to do this, or this opponent's doing that, that means the next thing that's going to happen is this is, and you don't go through the thought process. You get to the point where that becomes almost instinctive because you've sort of experienced it so much. That directly connects to refereeing, because what happens is you see the same things unfolding that you've experienced, and it becomes almost like you can make an informed prediction as to what is likely to unfold throughout the back and forth of a Shiai when two players interact with each other, and that makes refereeing much easier. And sometimes it leads to mistakes because all the signs are there, like everything's like in flashing lights almost. Excuse me. You know, an Ippon's coming. This is an Ippon. This is going to be an Ippon. It's coming. And then it all happens and it looks perfect, except the Shinai just missed the side of the men. And then still, you know, the Ippon gets awarded. And some people see that as a mistake. I don't necessarily. If you watch the video I did about how to be a better Shimpan, I talk exactly about that with an example from the All Japan Championships. Though I don't necessarily put it in that terminology, that's the sort of thing I'm talking about. So you need to accumulate that experience to become better at refereeing. Now, that's both experience of doing Kendo, but also of refereeing as well. So you mustn't be afraid to do refereeing. You must do it. You must do it. You must. Because they go hand in hand, refereeing and Keiko. You can't develop a well-rounded skill set in Kendo without doing refereeing. You will not develop the appropriate understanding of Yuko Datotsu's valid strikes without doing refereeing at some degree, even if it's just doing Ippon Shobu, all right, with your dojo mates. Doesn't mean you have to be a referee at a high level taikai. Now, obviously, like if you're a beginner, you're not going to be doing refereeing. I'm talking about once you get past sort of third dan, fourth dan, anyway. But in a roundabout way, you'll get better at refereeing through those aspects. Okay, so through that accumulation of experience, both as a referee and in the dojo. That's why, not to go too far on a tangent here, but that's why, like, it's really hard. Any high level referee will tell you it's difficult to referee low level Shiai, so like Q grade Shiai or children's Shiai, because that sort of interaction doesn't crop up. It's just random. You know, they just go at each other randomly, and you've got to try and find an ippon in there, which can be super tough. So yeah, it's easier to referee high level matches than it is low level matches, without a shadow of a doubt. And that's why, like, I did a lot of refereeing in Japan of elementary school kids, and by the time they get to like the 4th year, 5th year, and the final 6th year, the good kids are the ones that have started to figure out the process of ippon, or the process of yuko datotsu, that there's a datotsu no kikai, an opportunity, there's the actual datotsu, the actual strike, and then there's the zanshin, and kime. They're the ones that tend to do a lot better at that level, when the other kids are still going at them randomly, because their ippons stand out above the other kids, and it's easy to pick their ippon out from the crowd, or not out from the crowd, but out from the sort of jumbled mess that's happening otherwise. So yeah, that's that. Hope that makes sense. Have you ever considered a book, either hard or soft cover? While there's no such thing as too much information, I was looking at career paths, up and downs, items of that nature. Yeah, I mean, people have asked me about this before. I think I talked about it on here before, like a year or two ago. But yeah, I mean, I have thought about it, and I'd like to do it. It's something I'd love to do, and I will do at some stage. I'd like to do something with some level of instruction in it. I know there's a lot of instructional content out there, and instructional books out there, and I put most of my instructional content out for free anyway. But I do think I've got stuff to offer in that regard, which is why I put it up on the channel. But I do think a book would be good. But I would also like to include stuff about, you know, the experiences I've had. Because I have had some fantastic experiences thanks to Kendo, some stuff that's totally unbelievable. You know, I've traveled to more than 40 countries doing Kendo, and I've met and practiced with people all over the world. I've you know, and I've kind of had close contact with some of the best Kendoka and senseis in the world, and have fantastic stories from them. So yeah, it's just the time. It's just getting the time to do it. We'll see. Maybe in the future. Hi Andy. Lessons in literature are often aimed at how to cause the opponent to suffer one or more shikai. Can you offer any advice on how not to fall victim to them ourselves? And can you recommend any good literature on shikai? So, shikai is the 4 sicknesses of Kendo. Like fear, hesitation, and some others. I can't remember what they are off the top of my head, but yeah. I did a really good blog. Well, I say it's really good. I wrote it. It's I did quite a comprehensive blog post about this on the KendoStar blog. So if you search that, it's from a few years ago now. It was like probably 2 or 3 years ago that I wrote it, but it's a direct translation pretty much of the All Japan Kendo Federation's grading questions answer book, right? So I basically translated what it says in there. I don't know of much more sort of literature on it than that. The best literature I've seen on it is in Japanese from the All Japan Kendo Federation. So in terms of how you can avoid it or not fall victim to it, well, that's the big question, isn't it? That is the big question. I think the thing is just, it's like anything, experience, isn't it? With repeated practice, you will develop confidence and obviously ability, and then that will help you overcome those sicknesses. But it's not, there's no direct and quick working medicine for those sicknesses, unfortunately. Hi Andy, when fighting senior Kendoka, I was told that my Seme fails because I'm not posing a credible threat. The difference in speed and technique between us is too great. Do you have any tips for applying effective Seme when there is a large difference in grade? So this is a fantastic question. Really, really good question. And I remember when you posted this, I did ask you what grade are you at the minute, and you said you're second dan at the minute, but you were first dan when you were given this advice. So that's really useful. Look, the thing is about Seme is Seme literally is putting pressure on your opponent so that they feel that they're gonna be hit. And if you don't pose a credible threat, that's clearly impossible, right? Clearly. So it's kind of normal that is the case with people who are a much higher grade than you. Now, this is very generic, but on the whole, Seme works with people who are the same grade as you, and of course lower, and probably one grade higher, Dan grade higher. Once you start getting above that, it becomes more and more difficult. All right. So if you're second Dan, then applying Seme to someone that's fourth Dan or fifth Dan is going to be difficult. If it's not, then they shouldn't really be fourth or fifth Dan. And for me, for example, if I do Keiko with eighth Dan, the Seme doesn't work, all right, for the most part. And I mean, I guess it could, if I really went down that sort of if I tried to play him in that sort of competitive way, it might. I don't know. But for the most part, it doesn't. All right? It doesn't. If I try, I just end up getting hit. Now, that's not a problem. But I don't use my practice with a high-level sensei as an opportunity to practice Seme. I use it as an opportunity to practice like STEMI, for want of a better word. That's throwing everything away. So I look to make spirited attacks against those sort of sensei, even if I know that they won't be successful, but try to make the best attacks I possibly can. And even if that means that, like I say, I'll receive the Debanawaza or the Ojiwaza, or even just run onto their Shinai. And it's a little bit different to just attacking randomly. I mean, I'm still trying to find the good opportunity, but like at the same time, I know they're not going to be intimidated by me. Now this is where I'm at the minute. Maybe I'll change that opinion later. I don't know. But I certainly say that sort of at lower grades, when you're with the higher grade sensei, you shouldn't treat it as the Gokaku Geiko. Gokaku Geiko is the Keiko between two equals. Yeah. If anything, it's the Hikitate Geiko, where they are supposed to be pulling you up, sort of raising your ability. So you should be the one that's kind of trying to push upwards, and they're the one that's trying to pull you upwards. So yeah, I wouldn't worry about it too much. All right, if you were like busting out waza from proper solid Seme, like on people that were like 5th Dan and 6th Dan, it's like something's wrong. Okay. I'm not sure how helpful that was or how coherent it was, but I wouldn't worry about it too much. I'd like to learn more about periodization. Is that how you say that? How to plan training with a particular event or date in mind. Do you have any advice to share on the topic? Well, I've never heard of that word before. But if you mean planning towards training towards a specific event, I don't know a great deal about it. But what I would do is what I've seen, most high level teams or competitors in Japan, they train hard all year round. All right, all year round, they're really hammering it hard. Okay, and then when there's a match or a shiai, 2 weeks before the event or so, they'll sort of take the foot off the gas a little bit, and they'll start to incorporate practice shiai within their club. All right. Now I'm talking elite level players here that practice sort of 4 to 5 hours a day. If you're like not in that situation, then it's a bit different because but still, I mean, if I was thinking about that from like just a local club, yeah, you have to hammer it all year as much as you can, and then raise everyone's ability as much as possible, and then a month or a few weeks before the event, calm down the intensity and start to incorporate stuff that is similar to practice Shiai. So either some of you referee each other's matches, or you do Ippon Shobu instead of Jigeko, stuff like that. Okay? And I think that will help. Get people used to the idea of fighting for points. The biggest thing I find that dojos in the West, outside of Japan, struggle with at sort of medium to low level Shiai is when they go to the Shiai is their sort of lack of understanding of yu kodato to valid points. So they don't realise that the points that they're practicing week in, week out aren't quite good enough to be considered valid in a match. And then they go to a match and even though they hit their opponent, they don't get given Ippon and they don't know what the hell's going on. And then they start thinking, well, the referees are all wrong and it's all wrong and it's biased and they want the other team to win. And they start, all that sort of rubbish starts happening. Whereas really, it's just that they've been not quite they've not managed to get to the point where they understand what meets the criteria and what doesn't. And you have to, it's difficult, but yeah, that sort of practice at the club, like doing your Ippon Shobu, or even better if you're refereeing with each other, and then if you've got a chance to give feedback, will help. Now, if you've got a sort of medium to low level club and you've got lower level people refereeing for other lower level people, they're going to start giving each other points that aren't going to get given at Shiai. So you're going to have to watch over that as well as the instructor. Because the last thing you want is them to get into some sort of false sense of security where they think, oh yeah, okay, I've got this now. And they show up at the Taikai on the day and they start hitting Kote or men and stuff and they don't get Ippon and they're like, well, what the hell? Like, that's something you have to figure out. Okay, last one. Hi Andy, I'd like to ask if there's a difference between Matawari Suburi and Koshiwari Suburi, or are they just different names for the same Suburi? They're just different names for the same Suburi. It's where you sort of stand in a sort of horse riding stance with your legs apart, and then as you swing, you drop down into like a squat. Matawari and Koshiwari. Okay, so mata means your sort of crotch, and koshi is like your hips, and waru, which is where the word wari comes from. Waru is to separate or to split. Okay, it's just the same, different words for the same thing. Okay, that's it. There we go. We're at the end. That flew by. Thank you for joining me all the way through. Don't forget, like, share, subscribe. Ring the Kendo bell or you won't get better at Kendo. Let's see if we can do some online Keikos next week, eh? I'll post something on Facebook soon. See you all next time. Shop at KendoStar. Thanks for joining me. Bye-bye.